GM. Today's lesson, I'm going to talk about emotions, emotional control. So, all of your emotions that you feel are just in you, but you don't have to do anything with them. You don't have to act on them. So, I think this is a big misconception that people have about removing emotions, right? People want to remove emotions. That's not possible. You're going to feel emotions no matter what. But don't identify with them. This is what the problem with a lot of the world is, that people identify with emotions. They feel unhappy, so they identify with it, right? They feel sad and they identify themselves as depressed. They feel, even on the other side, they feel excited, right? They feel euphoria. And then they identify themselves with being someone who can do no wrong. And that's where bad things happen, especially in the market. But the main thing is the labels that you put on yourself. And it's usually negative. And usually, when it comes to the markets, it's some form of fear, right? You're going to feel fear in all different forms. Fear of loss, fear of missing out, and the fear of giving away your paper gains. But what people try and tell you to do is to just not feel those fears, be disciplined, be like a robot, be ice cold. That's all bullshit. What you need to do is be aware of them. And the way you're aware of them is just by admitting and saying to yourself, I have these emotions. I feel them. Right? It's the complete opposite of what people say. It's not by running away from them or ignoring them. It's by accepting them and acknowledging them, and then saying, I'm going to take the correct action no matter what. The emotion will make you, though, in the moment, it will make you feel like taking action. It will make you feel like closing that trade, opening that trade, doubling down, tripling down, chasing losses. Revenge, FOMO. It will make you want to click those buttons. But no matter how strong an emotion feels, no matter how strong it has never killed anyone. It has never made anyone do something that wasn't directly their choice. Right? You can't die from an emotion. You can only die from a conscious decision, an action. If you decide to fucking jump out in front of a bus. Right? The emotion doesn't make you do it. And you need to stop thinking that way if you do think that way. Because a lot of times, I get the question all the time, it's like, I lost a bunch of money, I'll get a DM, right? I'll get a DM from a student, I'll say, I lost a bunch of money, and I'm like, well then, why? I'll always say, well, like, what happened? It's like, oh, well, price was going down, and I felt, I thought it would go down further. I felt scared, so I did that. Or price was going up, and I felt fear of missing out, and so I bought, and it went up, and then it went down. And it always boils back to people thinking that it was the emotion that did it. Right? People say, "Oh, I FOMO'd." You didn't FOMO. You chose, and I know we say you FOMO, like it's just a catch-all term, but you didn't FOMO, you chose to make a decision, and that decision was to go long after price had already pumped. You can't blame the feeling, because every single person has it. Every time I'm in a long, and it goes up, and it breaks out, and it's all green, I want to buy more. And every time I'm not in a long, but I was looking at that coin, and then I get distracted, whatever, I go away, I don't look at the charts, I come back and it's fucking pumping. I want to. I feel FOMO, I feel fear, I feel greed, I feel all the emotions you could imagine. But I don't do anything with them. And the simplest way to actually do this, to make this practical, the simplest way is for you to have a system. And now, I'm not going to talk about systems like white belt, blue belt. A process, a checklist. It can be that simple. If you just have a list that you must follow before you enter a trade, not a list of, trend line has to break and order block, not technical, a list of things you must do. Review, entry, trigger. That's your first one. Why your first one? Because most people, when they trade on emotion, they don't have a reason, right? So if your first thing is review the entry trigger, basically saying, why am I entering? Why am I entering? Why am I entering? Have that on your sheet before you click the button. You have to answer to yourself as if it was a boss and saying, here's why I want to go long. Here's why I want to go short. And it should be something as simple as System A from my, your playbook. System A is a breakout system, candle close, retest, whatever. You say entry reason, this. How much am I risking? And why do I want to take this trade? What do I feel? And it can be really simple. It can just be 3 questions. You don't have to worry about stop loss, take profit. None of that matters. Your stop loss is not what fucks you up. It's if you need to avoid emotional trades, it's getting into the trade in the first place. That is always where the trouble starts. It's the moment you enter, right? Because it's really easy to FOMO into a trade and then put your stop loss in a good place, right? You could FOMO in a pump and put your stop loss below a daily low or whatever. That doesn't mean it was a good trade. You entered in a totally wrong place for the wrong reasons. Doesn't matter what you do with your stop loss. And no, that doesn't mean you're managing risk, right? You're just convincing yourself that, I'm using a stop loss, it's okay. No. So the emotion drove you to do something. But if you accept that, you're basically saying you don't have free will. Do you have free will? Ask yourself, are you so weak that you can't answer yourself 3 questions before you take a trade? Can you really not stop your hand from going to the keyboard and going to the mouse and clicking back? You really, a random fucking chart, a bunch of candlesticks, has that much control over you? Sounds pretty pathetic to me. And when you internalize that, you'll realize that feeling emotions is fine. In fact, it's good. And when you really internalize that, you can take that forward and put it into practice. The way you'll put it into practice, like I said, is with a very simple ritual. Even call it a ritual, right? Because your system's different. Your system is entry, stop loss. Yeah, that's your technical reasons. But your ritual, your routine, your habit. Okay, I must do this, this, and this before I enter a trade. Just like your pre-flight checks. Yeah? Just like anybody who was going into any high-risk activity would check the lights, check the oil, check the engine, whatever. This is a high-risk activity. You're putting money on the line. You might never see that again. So, go and build your pre-flight routine.